In this video, I'm going to tell you about the painting subjects that you probably shouldn't choose if you are a beginner. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle, and on this channel you'll find all things watercolour, as well as drawing, mixed media, even a little bit of business and motivation for artists too. Please do consider subscribing. If you click the bell icon, you get notified when I have a new video for you. Make at least one free video a week here on YouTube with extra content for Patreon subscribers. So let's get started. This is a tricky subject, isn't it? Things you shouldn't paint. Of course, I can't tell you what to paint, so before you go into the comments, say, don't tell me what to paint. I can't tell you what to paint. I'm not even a real person. We've discussed this before. This is just the internet. But I have seen people get into trouble with certain painting subjects time and time again. I'm talking about beginners, people that don't have the experience, and they throw themselves in and tackle these really difficult subjects. So this isn't so much about what you can never paint. This is just things that you should probably avoid painting when you're a beginner, or at least have low expectations of success with. This is just a talking video, so I'm just going to go through some things that I see again and again, people getting into trouble with. It's just a bit of fun, so no trolls in the comments please, and let's get started. Now, if you've done any watercolour painting at all, you'll very soon have realised that you can't paint light things on top of dark. In other words, you can't paint a dark blue sky and then paint lots of light things on top, like lots of light plants or something like that. So you have to paint round things, and that can be quite tricky. Now that's okay if you're painting around them in little areas, but if you've got something they call a flat wash, in other words, a large expanse of flat paint with no drying lines in, no backgrounds, nothing at all, perfectly applied. If you've got something like that and you've got to get it in a huge area around loads of complex objects, your chances of success are very, very slim. This is something that, even professional artists really struggle with. We have lots of tricks for getting it done, but it's one of the hardest things that you can do. So if you're going to choose your picture and you have a flat wash around lots of complex shapes, I would advise you to stop, either change the background, so make adjustments, or just pick something a little bit easier. Now, if you were learning to drive, you probably wouldn't start in a Ferrari. If you wanted to learn to cook and you didn't know anything about cooking at all, you probably wouldn't start with a gâteau or a souffle. Yet there is something, I don't know if it's something in the water out there, but there's something that's making people try and paint babies with almost no experience of painting whatsoever. Now, painting portraits in watercolour is really hard. Painting children or people generally is even harder, and painting babies is harder than that. Now, I follow lots of Facebook art groups, of course I do, because it's my job, and I'll be happily scrolling, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, there's another zombie alien baby, because a complete beginner has gone on the internet and said, oh, I've just started learning to paint. I think I'll paint my baby granddaughter. And I'm just like, please don't. Please just stop. Please stop painting babies unless you're really experienced. And if you want to have a go anyway, let me give you one or two tips. There are lines on people's faces, and there are more lines and more shadows on our faces as we get older. Obviously, don't I know it looking in the mirror every day. But the problem is when you're painting children is that you tend to sort of see all these little lines, because children have them too, tiny little folds and little shadows. Like, put that little fold in, that little shadow in, and a bit of shading there, a bit of dark there, another little line there. And before you know it, you have an 80-year-old baby, an 80-year-old alien zombie baby. We've all seen them. Please don't be that person that starts your painting career painting babies. It's not fair on your poor children and grandchildren. Please just stop. I can't stop laughing. Just stop painting babies, please. Now, I think we all agree that perspective is difficult and painting buildings is difficult. Nobody sort of is left at home on a Friday night on their own, and they're not going out partying or anything. What shall I do for fun? Let's study perspective. Nobody thinks like that, because it's a little bit tiresome and it's really tricky. I've got lots of videos on this channel that will help you with building perspective, but if you're going to start off drawing buildings, just choose one. Don't pick yourself a huge street scene with multiple points of perspective, buildings facing all over the place, especially round here in old world England where everything's kind of gone a bit wonky. I want you to not pick those subjects that have multiple buildings in if you're just a beginner. At this point in the video, I hesitate to say if you're getting some value from this video. If you're getting some fun and some amusement from this video, please press that thumbs up button, that like button for me. YouTube rewards channels with audience interaction, so if you like, share, subscribe, or leave me a comment, it'll push this channel out to more people. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. Is it even possible? You can help me do it. So next up on the subjects not to choose are very, very complicated skies. So skies are quite difficult, particularly in watercolours, because you get a lot of drying lines. You can't spend, a week like you could on oil painting. You can't spend a week just getting one cloud exactly right, because you know what happens if you've tried this at all. You'll end up with loads of backruns and drying lines and a big old mess. The trick to doing skies is to do them very fast, to get in and get out. 1 minute. Put your colours on, let it dry, step away. Which means you have to be quite experienced. You have to get everything ready. You have to know what you're doing. Now you can work skies in layers. I've done skies, complex skies, in more than 10 layers. So in other words, you do a layer, then you let it dry, and then you go in again. I demonstrated this recently on a clouds video. However, if you're a beginner, keep it simple to start with. Start with a really easy sky, a simple flat wash without many things on top of it, a graduated wash, or just a simple sky with 1 or 2 clouds in. If you're looking at a sky and it's got, airplane trails, and it's got clouds, and there's a bit of a sunset going on, and there's buildings in front of it, just stop right there. It's one of the biggest places that beginners mess up their paintings. Luckily, it's the first thing you do, so you can get rid of the painting if you've messed up the sky. I often think to myself, if I've got a successful sky in, I'm kind of 8/10 of the way through a painting. If I can get the sky looking good, because it's so tricky, then everything else will be much easier. So as a beginner, either pick subjects without skies or pick them with very simple skies. And if you do want to try a complex sky, just try it out on some scrap paper. Don't be spending 4 hours doing a beautiful drawing of your landscape and then messing up the sky. Now, we've talked about the difficulty of buildings and perspective, and it doesn't come much worse actually than churches. And I'm thinking of a British style church, the ones with multiple points of perspective, and they've got all these weird little bits on, they've got a tower and then they come out and they go in, they come out. I'll put a picture up so you know what I'm talking about if you're in a different country. The perspective on these is enough to make a professional artist tear their hair out. And the problem is that beginners often want to paint churches because they have a good relationship with their own church and they want to paint the church. Now, in some countries, it may be that your church is very simple looking. You may have a very simple 1-story chapel. That's fine to have a go at that. But if you've got something like your British church, a cathedral, or one of those complex mosques with, multiple buildings and towers and those nice curved round shapes with the pointy bit, you've got sort of Gothic arches or something like that going on, you really want to stop right there. These are some of the hardest buildings in the world to get accurate and correct. If you are absolutely drawn to painting the church that you love and it's really, really complicated, I have an alternative for you. Pick something like a stained glass window or even a beautiful door and paint that instead. So this next one is almost related to the babies one, and that is dogs. So many people start out wanting to paint their dog, or maybe they've got, I see people getting into trouble with these kind of semi-professional amateur commissions. In other words, they've done a little bit of painting and their neighbour has said to them, "Oh, could you paint my dog?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a go." And then before you know it, they're having an absolute nightmare. Now, if you don't have a lot of experience with drawing, if you're not very, very accurate at drawing, and even if you are, even if you trace, it doesn't get you out of trouble. Some of the hardest dogs to paint actually are the ones with loads and loads of curly fur. Things like poodles, if you have something like a white poodle, it's really, really hard to get this correct. Cats, actually, my favourite cats are actually much easier because their faces are much flatter and their proportions are actually aligned similar to human proportions. Apparently that's why we love kittens, because they look like human babies. Cats, just like people, have the eyes halfway down the head, and it's much easier to see on their fairly flat faces where everything goes. Dogs, however, come in every shape and size known to man, lots of different colours too. They have long hair, they have short hair, they have flat muzzles and long muzzles. They really are quite tricky. Dogs are not the best place to start your painting journey. So let me know in the comments if any of this resonated with you. Have you seen any of those alien babies on Facebook? If you are still speaking to me, do have a look in the video description because I've got lots of free things in there for you. I've got some free downloadable PDFs that you can grab for no money whatsoever. I've even got a free watercolor painting course that you can take. Now, every bad painting starts with a bad drawing, so you can improve your painting no end, not only by avoiding some of the subjects I've spoken about in this video, but by improving some really basic mistakes that almost everyone makes with their drawing. You can watch that video right now.